right, so get this. We're diving into a murder case, and the silencer was a potato.
A potato.
A potato. Yeah, you really can't make this stuff up.
Wow.
But behind this bizarre detail, there's a story that is both intriguing and really disturbing. We're talking about Jocelyn Peters,
Right.
a beloved third-grade teacher. She was tragically murdered, and it seemed like the perfect crime initially.
Oh, yeah.
No forced entry, no witnesses, just silence. Well, and until the potato of all things started to unravel the truth.
So what's captivating about this case is how it initially seemed like a puzzle with no edges, like where do you even start?
Right.
But every puzzle has a starting point.
Hey.
And in this case, it was the discovery of Jocelyn's body.
And the person who found her was her boyfriend, Cornelius Green.
Okay.
And he was a middle school principal. And he was the picture of cooperation.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He offered an alibi. He willingly gave his DNA. He played the grieving boyfriend perfectly, almost too perfectly.
Yeah, it's like he studied for the role. And he was determined to, like, deliver an Oscar-worthy performance.
Right.
But even the best actors can miss their cues. And Green's misstep was his reaction to the police wanting to search his car. He got really agitated, almost as if he knew something was hidden there.
That's where things get really interesting. During a break in the interview, Green calls his lifelong friend, Philip Cutler, and asks him to move his car.
Why the secrecy?
Yeah, if he was innocent, wouldn't he want the police to search it and clear his name?
That's the question that investigators had. It suggests he was trying to, like, control the narrative,
Yeah.
to, like, distance himself from a potential piece of evidence
Yeah.
before it could be examined.
And thankfully, the police were recording these calls. So Cutler is brought into the spotlight. He denies any involvement, but his timeline is full of inconsistencies.
Oh.
And then there's this strange detail about him eating pieces of paper while he was alone in the interview room. It's like something out of a spy movie.
I have to wonder what was going through his mind. Was he trying to swallow evidence?
Right.
Or was it like the pressure, knowing he was caught in this web of deceit?
It definitely paints a picture of panic. Meanwhile, we have Detective Biondolino meticulously piecing this puzzle together. He finds surveillance footage showing Green's car near Jocelyn's apartment the night of the murder.
The one that Cutler moved.
The one that Cutler moved.
Wow, so this is where those small details come into play. The surveillance footage, along with Cutler's cell phone data placing him at the scene, completely contradict his alibi.
Right.
And put him at the crime scene.
So we have our who at the scene, but the why is still a bit murky. And that's where things take a dark turn. Green's Google searches reveal a chilling possibility. He was searching things like how to crush abortion pills and can you terminate a pregnancy at 5 months?
Wow, this completely changes our understanding of the motive.
Right.
It goes beyond a messy relationship. This suggests premeditation, a desire for control, a chilling disregard for Jocelyn's life and her unborn child.
And then it gets even worse. There's this text exchange between Green and Cutler where Green mentions sending a package. Cutler replies, "You're going to be sending me the package." And then Green abruptly ends the conversation.
That's really suspicious. Like they were discussing something incriminating and didn't want a record of it. Like they knew someone might be looking at these messages later.
Cutler is arrested, but he denies knowing anything about the package. However, investigators had the cell phone and car tracking data. They apply pressure, and finally he cracks.
It's like watching a dam break.
Cutler admits that Green sent him $2,500, but he claims his phone was stolen.
At this point, does anybody believe that?
It's a flimsy excuse when you consider everything else, and this is where that separate theft case against Green comes into play. Remember, he was accused of stealing $2,700 from his school.
And the fact that the amount is so close to what he sent Cutler can't be a coincidence.
Right.
It just shows he was caught in his own web of lies.
But his reaction when he's arrested is truly baffling. He seemed more upset about the theft charge than the murder accusation.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Maybe the theft was concrete, something he could grasp, whereas the murder was so horrific that he couldn't process it.
It's almost like he was trying to convince himself that the real crime was the stolen money, not the taking of a life.
That really speaks volumes about his character.
Absolutely. And it seems like we've only just scratched the surface of Cornelius Green's world, but what lies beneath is a tangled web of lies that goes much deeper than anyone could have imagined.
You know, it's incredible how someone like Green, a seemingly respectable figure, could be living this double life.
Yeah.
We've talked about his fake alibi and his attempts to cover his tracks and that callous reaction to the charges. But there's more. Remember, Green wasn't just deceiving the police. He was juggling multiple relationships,
Oh, wow.
weaving all these lies to keep everyone in the dark about what he was doing.
It's crazy how someone can keep up that facade for so long. It's like a house of cards just waiting to fall apart.
And maybe the most disturbing part is his interaction with Jocelyn's mother after the murder. Knowing that Jocelyn was dead, he urged her mother to go check on her.
That's chilling. It's just cruel and calculated.
It reminds you that evil can hide in plain sight.
Yeah.
Green wasn't a hardened criminal. He was a principal, someone people trusted. And yet, underneath it all was this darkness that you wouldn't imagine.
It's a scary thought. Makes you wonder how well you can ever really know someone.
Absolutely. And it shows how important it is to pay attention, to notice those inconsistencies and trust your gut when something feels off.
Speaking of inconsistencies, remember Cutler trying to eat those pieces of paper?
Oh, yeah.
That takes on a whole new meaning now.
For sure. It shows just how desperate he was, trying to hide evidence.
Right.
But even with that, the evidence against him was overwhelming.
It all pointed to him.
The phone records the surveillance, the money.
Yeah, and while Cutler tried to distance himself from Green, saying his phone was stolen, that
Right.
he was just a pawn in Green's game,
Oh, come on.
the evidence was clear.
It really was, and the jury agreed. It only took them an hour to convict Cutler.
Wow.
That shows how strong the case was.
Green, on the other hand, he decided to plead guilty.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe Cutler thought he could convince the jury he was innocent. Or maybe he just didn't understand how much evidence they had. But Green, he knew he couldn't fight it.
Right.
His guilty plea was like admitting defeat.
Accepting the truth.
Exactly.
So in the end, they both got life sentences. Justice was served. But of course, it doesn't bring back Jocelyn and her daughter, Micah Lee.
That's the sad reality. There are no winners here. This crime leaves behind so much grief and anger.
It really does.
But even with all the darkness, we have to acknowledge the people who fought for the truth.
Yeah.
Detective Biondolino and his team, they never gave up on getting justice for Jocelyn and Micah Lee.
They were incredible.
Their commitment to the case is inspiring. It shows the power of human resilience.
Absolutely. And their success highlights how important thorough investigation is. They didn't miss a single detail.
Every little thing mattered.
It all helped expose Green's scheme.
From the potato to the text messages, all of it.
It's a powerful reminder that lies can't hide forever.
Eventually, the truth comes out.
This case has been a roller coaster of emotions. We've seen the depths of human deceit and the consequences of manipulation, but we've also seen justice prevail. But as we wrap up this deep dive, there are still questions to consider. Questions that go beyond the investigation itself. We saw how the police brought Green's world down around him,
Yeah.
but it really makes you think about the bigger picture, like about responsibility and how someone can manipulate others like that.
It does. Green was the one who set this whole thing in motion. He was pulling the strings, using Cutler as his tool. It's scary how someone can use a friend like that for their own gain.
It makes you wonder how far someone will go. And it raises a tough question. Does using someone else to commit a crime make you less responsible? Or is it worse because you betrayed someone and manipulated them?
That's a hard one. Cutler was the one who did it. He was there at the scene. But he was clearly manipulated by Green, someone he trusted.
It's like Green was playing this sick game, and Cutler was just a pawn. It makes you wonder about their friendship. Was Cutler just blinded by loyalty?
It's hard to know for sure, but it shows how powerful manipulation can be. It can happen anywhere, even between friends.
This whole case has been a journey into the dark side of humanity. We've seen lies and deceit and a horrific act of violence. I feel a lot of things: anger, sadness, but also a sense of hope.
Hope in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, despite the tragedy, the fact that they were brought to justice shows how strong our system is. It shows that even when things are bad, there are people fighting for what's right.
That's a good point. Justice might not always be easy or perfect, but it is possible, and people like Detective Biondolino prove that. They give us hope that even in dark times, good can win.
This case has been a lot to take in, but Jocelyn and Micah Lee's story needed to be told. And I think we've learned a lot about the nature of evil and the power of manipulation and the importance of fighting for justice. We all have a responsibility to make the world safer and more just. We need to pay attention to the people around us and speak up when something isn't right.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you learned something new about this case and about the issues it raises.
And as always, keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep searching for the truth, even when it's hard to find.